First thing we do is that we smile for the camera. Because they like to have like a good, okay. And then we get started.
Okay.
Hi. I wish that, I do wish we had been recording for the last 10 minutes, because sometimes the show before the show is really where it's at. But I have two kinds of people on the show. Well, maybe three. I have people, everybody I'm pretty obsessed with, and people that I'm obsessed with that I'm friends with, and people that I'm obsessed with that I want to be friends with. And Faith Broussard, Cade, files under the second, and we're getting real close, wouldn't you say? Let me read a little bio.
We're practically best friends already.
I'm excited about it. This is a very hopeful day. I did not wake up this way, as I told you, but we're really moving out of some cloudy territory into sunlight today. So Faith Broussard Cade has over 10 years of experience as a professional school counselor and mental health counselor, and also worked as a baker and a food blogger before shifting to writing inspirational affirmations on pieces of handmade paper. At the Instagram account Fleur de Lis Speaks. I'm obsessed with it. Let me get back to this. And so she's published 2 guided journals on the transformative power of self-care and self-love. One is Because You Are Worthy, 90 Days of Transformative Self-Love, and Because You Have Purpose, 90 Days of Encouraging Self-Love. Ugh. Her work on personal healing, wellness, and self-care advocacy has inspired over 160,000 people and counting via social media to choose introspection, gratitude, and finding peace in things most take for granted. She currently lives in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, with her jack-of-all-trades husband and extremely bright and inquisitive daughter, Bean, who I would have taken as the alternate on the show if Faith could have not been on the show, because I want to be her best friend too.
Yeah.
So there we have it.
She's booked. She's at school.
Fair. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, friend to be.
Hi, friend to be. I'm excited to be here too. I think as a counselor and a mental health professional, like you, very in tune with vibes, and just like you get feelings from people immediately. And just from the second I hopped on, I got a feeling from you that I'm like, if she were here in Atlanta, we would be best friends. Yeah. We would hang out together all the time.
I think we'd be like morning walking partners.
I'm looking for a morning walking partner because I need accountability. I will fall off in a minute.
Might I say we could do that just on the telephone?
Right. Virtually. We could do that.
This is what we're learning these days. So let's put a pin in that.
Yeah, let's put a pin in that.
I'm not sure that the listeners are that much interested. I mean, they might be actually quite interested. Stay tuned. On our Instagrams, we will let you know how we're going to be like morning walking. I'm very into like suburban mom power walking, like arms up.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe we'll have some colors. I'm very into your nails. Look at her Instagram. Always the nails. So I am very into the origin story of your Instagram account. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. I'll make it short and sweet.
Or not.
So it totally was not meant to be what it is at all. And the funny, tragic thing about it is that it all happened by accident and totally was born out of literally the most devastating and miserable time of my life. And I can say that, not just because I'm starting to be on the other side of it, because I said that even when I was in the midst of it, but as you said, I was a school counselor for about 10 years. And in the morning of January 9th, 2018, I was on my way to work as a school counselor in Johns Creek, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. And I was hit from behind by a tractor trailer in a motor vehicle accident. And I sustained a concussion and a traumatic brain injury from that accident, from which I am still recovering to this day.
Can I just ask, I think this is really important for people.
Absolutely.
What are the symptoms that you struggle with from a TBI, traumatic brain injury?
Oh gosh.
I think that gets
Yeah,
glossed over,
it
and
does get
this
glossed
happens with
over.
so many people, and it is a
And people
daunting
don't,
task.
and also people don't necessarily associate certain symptoms with it. And so they assume that it is what it is. So the symptoms are very, very similar to, I know that a lot of people have seen in the media in the past several years, people talking about football players
Mhm.
and their repeated concussions,
Right.
and how then they begin to show these signs of depression, anxiety,
Mm.
irritation, mood swings, all these sorts of things. But then, so there's all those things, but there's also, like, I have terrible sensitivity to light and sound,
Wow.
um, to the point where if Bean and her dad are trying to have a conversation with me at the same time, I literally have to put my hands up and be like, and they know that means I'm overstimulated. Too many people are talking. I
Wow.
literally cannot hear either of you. All I hear is like an overall background
Wow.
noise. And I need someone to stop so I can only have to focus on one person.
Okay.
Um,
So
Same thing with light. It's usually too bright to the point that at this point, I rarely go grocery shopping or regular shopping. I literally have to do online shopping and drive up and have it loaded into my car, because I would go into Target to shop and be wandering around the store for 3 hours and literally have nothing in my cart
oh,
because
mama.
there's music playing and then there's people
So it's
talking in the
like a
background.
real
It's
overstimulation.
overload,
Yeah.
overload.
Yeah.
So there's that. There's also chronic fatigue and insomnia. I
Oh,
have gone easily 4 or 5 days straight without sleeping at all, like at all sleeping, laying in bed, barely able to keep my eyes open, but not able to fall asleep.
mm.
So then sleep deprivation then turns into signs of psychosis and
Mhm.
feeling like, you're seeing things and there's floaters in your vision, and lack of being able to pay attention. So lack of concentration, which I already struggled with ADHD growing up my whole life, being undiagnosed and not knowing what it was. This accelerated it.
Wow.
And so, not being able to focus, concentrate, attend to any task,
Wow.
see any task to completion.
So
Um,
your life completely
Completely,
changed. Like, so
completely.
we're not like, oh, and then like I just had like a boo-boo on my head.
No,
Like
no,
this
no,
is
no.
like a
Yeah,
transformative, this is a transformative life experience. You get hit
absolutely.
and your whole life changes.
Right.
And I imagine some
And
mental health
of
wash
course,
came with that.
Absolutely. Very much the like, I didn't do this to myself, right? Like, I didn't run a red light. I didn't do, someone
Right.
hit me from behind.
Yeah.
And then of course there's the legal ramifications of that, of, dealing with lawsuits and being in this chronic pain and having lost a job because of it, because
Mhm.
I wasn't cleared by my attorneys. I mean, cleared by my clinicians, my doctors, to return to work. So my leave expired, and then they're like, "Hey, come back to work, cleared to work, or resign, or we terminate you."
Oh, man.
So I resigned. So this career that I had been working toward and
Yeah.
working for my whole life, like dedicated my whole life to being a helper, um, ripped away from me literally in an instant. And
It gave me the chills.
yeah, and then having to explain and justify to people like what's going on with me. Like, I'm not making this up. I have lost friends over it who thought I was, well, friends
Right.
who thought I was,
Find out
yeah,
go through a big traumatic incident, find out who the
right.
friends are
And you
real
find out
quick.
who your friends
Yeah, real
are.
quick. Absolutely.
And, who thought, I was just making up the whole thing. I was just trying to milk the system or whatever the case may be. Attorneys on the opposite side, saying that, of course, I'm making the whole thing up because they don't want to
Right.
have to compensate me, all these other things. And so you're fighting these mental, physical, and emotional battles like every single day. And then guess what? You still have your family.
Yeah, you had
You
like a
still,
3-year-old at the time, it sounds
Bean
like,
was
right?
3.5 at the time, right? And so there's that. And, I had been a baker before, so that was our thing that we did together. So we go from baking every day and then taking pictures for my food blog and her taking bites of food and all these things to mama has to like order takeout almost
Right.
every day
Right.
because I don't even have the stamina to stand in the kitchen and
Mm.
cook. Like I even at one point subscribed to HelloFresh because I was like, okay, 30-minute meals.
Well,
I
that's
can
super
do
lovely.
this,
I mean,
right?
that's amazing.
Right. And
I wouldn't even
then
be able to do that. I'm not such a
well, but then I realized I couldn't. I subscribed to HelloFresh, which is a wonderful service, by the way, and the meals are excellent. The food is excellent. But a meal that said 30 minutes took me 2.5 hours
Oh,
to make.
wow.
I distinctly remember the first delivery that I got, and I was like, that's when the light came on that I had been in denial
Mm.
about my capacity of what I could handle. Um, and I had to, it was like a wake up call, right? Because then I have my doctors also telling me, Faith, you have always been the person that has done everything. But if you don't get somewhere and sit down and be still and rest and literally sit on the couch and watch mindless TV, your brain will not heal and you will never get back to 100% where you were before. So
Was it a wake up call? Did
it
it
was
work?
it did. It did because I felt in that moment, I'm choosing between this facade of the present of me being superwoman and super mom. And yeah, I have a brain injury and I've been in a car
Yeah,
accident,
no
but
big deal. No big
no
deal.
big deal. Right.
Let me pick up carpool. Let me
Right.
make the cupcakes.
Exactly.
This is the great
And
crisis of human
right.
beings right now.
Right. And let me still be room mom and let me still volunteer for all the
Absolutely.
field trips and let me still do this and, bring my husband lunch when he's out during the
Yeah.
day and like all these things, try to keep my house pristine. And I can choose between the facade of now or the reality of a decent future, right? Like if I choose the facade of now, I will never heal and I'll never be in a place to run and play with Bean at the park as she gets older, or to have another child, or
You
to
know,
do anything else.
talk about grace. I mean, grace is one of my favorite things to talk
I
about
love
in the
it.
world.
Me too. Me
Well, see, then
too.
we'll talk about that on our morning walks. Um, well, you know what I'm thinking? I've been in addictions and an eating disorders therapist
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
And so, of
Yeah.
course, when you're in, this is what you're talking about. You're like,
Mhm.
when you're saying yes to everything, you're saying no to something that is
Right.
really you.
Absolutely.
And it's an interesting moment of grace because it was your health or I don't know
Mhm.
what happened because that's the deal with grace, right? But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, sounds like you had this moment to be able to say, okay, short term, save everybody, sacrifice myself, long
Mhm.
term, no self,
Right.
or short term, learn how to set boundaries, self love, which we're also, by the way,
Absolutely.
we're all I mean, talk about, we don't know anything that's going on. You know what? Who
No.
knows? Who knows? when they say like the gift is wrapped in shit, you know?
Right. Oh gosh.
Like this
And
is such a great
so
story of
many
a
times it
gift
is.
wrapped in shit.
Absolutely.
So how do we
Literally.
get to the so yes, yes, yes,
How do
yes.
yeah, yes.
How do
So
we get to the Instagram account?
all this happens, and as I'm having this wake-up call, right? And realizing that I need to set boundaries and not be everything for everyone. Um, there is this part of me that's like, okay, but I'm not gonna give up everything. Like I'm still gonna hold on to
It's such an addiction
to those
though.
little
People,
nuggets of
right?
things.
I mean,
Right. It is. And the thing is, being is other than her dad, of course, is the absolute love of my life. When I tell you that child is everything and more that I could have ever imagined.
well, I only know
And
her from the few quotes that she gets on your
uh-huh.
Instagram account. Like, I'm pretty in love with her too. I don't say that
She's
as like a
pretty
stalker, but I say
great.
that as like, a fun aunt over here.
So I think that at least half of my following is around for Bean because
Oh,
they
I'm so
love
glad I'm
her.
not alone.
They love her. She's great. She's funny, but she literally is throughout this whole process. She is what kept me going.
Mm,
I knew
choose
that
your why.
on days when I had not slept 3 or 4 days, when I was in so much pain I could barely get out of bed, I knew that Bean needed to get to school in the morning.
Mm.
And so there were days that my absolute best that I could do, the only thing I could do was get up, get dressed, get her ready for school, give her breakfast, drop her off, come back home and get back in the bed until afternoon carpool to pick her up. And so, like I said, I didn't let go of everything. I kept my like one little thing, and that was being room mom for her pre-K 3 class. And so I distinctly remember one day the field trip was to the roller skating rink, which is a terrible idea for 3-year-olds because they can't even walk straight, much less balance on roller skates.
I'd like to watch a YouTube video, do you go to YouTube when you're feeling down?
Yeah.
I'd like to watch that on a YouTube video. Just 3-year-olds at the roller skating rink.
It was funny, but it was also tragic. There were lots of injuries. Thankfully, Bean was not one of them. But I pull up to the skating rink a little bit early, and I'm sitting there in my car, and I'm like, Faith, if you don't stop, if you don't do something now, like you will not make it through this. You will not be able to show up for Bean's field trips when she's in kindergarten, first grade, second, like you won't be able to do this. So pick now, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I distinctly remember, we had gone down from 2 incomes to 1. Right. Money was very scarce. And I got to a place where I said, okay, Faith, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to nurse yourself back to health, to get yourself back in a better place so that you can be the mom and the wife and hopefully the counselor in the future that you want to be? Mm-hmm. And there was no space or money or resources for trendy self-care, right? Like no mani-pedi days, spa days, right, girls' trips to Bali and tree swings and all this stuff.
Sounds like not even room for a therapist.
Like, I mean, not even room for a therapist. I mean,
not even like just like some basic stuff, right?
No, there wasn't, because in forfeiting my job, I forfeit my health insurance. Yeah. So I couldn't afford a therapist at the time. So I was in a place where like, what is something that I know I can do consistently for myself that I know that I will hold myself accountable to do, not this big grand plan of waking up at 5 a.m. and writing for 2 hours in my journal or whatever.
Well, you couldn't do that anyway, right? Not even that you couldn't accomplish that goal, right? But also your brain couldn't handle that, right?
It could not handle it.
Right.
I needed something in chunks, like little nuggets. And I said, okay, for 15 days, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to challenge myself to write myself an affirmation, positive love note. And I'm going to post it on Instagram for accountability, because I know if I say I'm going to do something on Instagram and then I don't do it one day, then like the internet thugs will come for me and then I'll be embarrassed. And I hate being embarrassed. So it was like this perfect way of like keeping me accountable to do something that was healthy for myself. Right. And so I did it. I wrote the first note.
How many people followed you at the time? Like,
oh my gosh, probably it was like pennies of people.
Yeah.
Pennies.
So like the people who would have like been, if you say on your Instagram, okay, guys, here's what it was just like your friends that were going to be like, okay.
I would say, I mean, it might have been a little over 1,000.
Okay.
And at that time I had been doing a food blog and posting food pictures, doing all this stuff for a while, and still right around 1,000 people or so, maybe 1,200. And I wrote those first notes and, people started liking them, whatever. And then within a week or so, more people started liking them. And then I had never even gotten DMs before, like nobody's sending me DMs, but I start seeing this like little numbers pop up. And so I'm checking them and people are saying, thank you so much for your notes. They helped me to walk away from an abusive 25-year marriage. Wow. Or I want you to know that I was thinking of committing suicide today. And wow. I was telling myself, I need a sign. Like if I open my Instagram and something pops up, then that will be the sign that I won't do it. And your note popped up and thank you for saving my life. And people saying they decided to go to the military and they didn't know what they were going to do with their like all just like all these things. And then 15 days is over. And I'm like, well, hell, I can't stop writing these notes. Like, what
matter.
yeah, and these well, and not necessarily that I'm at, but it was more of, I think it was an aha moment for me to realize that the very small, simple, accessible thing that I was doing to help heal myself resonated with so many people who were hurting and needed
Absolutely.
healing at the same time. And it wasn't these big grand gestures or profound things that I was doing. It was literally, I'm feeling awful today, but this is one thing that I'm going to tell myself that is okay. This is one thing I'm going to tell myself that will encourage me to make it through the rest of this day. And
Well, the beauty too is that, I mean, I think there's actually about 1 billion beautiful
Mhm.
parts of the story. One being that this wasn't an attempt to be an influencer. This
Oh
was an
my
attempt
gosh,
to heal
no.
yourself, right? It's
Ugh.
like keeping the focus on
Right,
yourself is
right,
really the way to heal, not
right.
I need this person to like me and I need
Exactly,
this car. And you're just like, hey,
exactly.
I'm going to write a love note to
Mhm.
myself. I'm going to put it up and then let's see what happens. Like the
Right.
authenticity, I think in it, the other
Yeah.
thing I like live and die for about it, which has impacted my life and,
Mhm.
Ariana Huffington's life, because that's how I learned about you, is that, I think the parallel process of it, right? Like as I'm listening to your origin story, like this
Mhm.
process of getting untethered from the addiction of doing, right?
Yeah.
Being a human doing, not being a
Mhm.
human being, right?
Absolutely.
Helps us all.
It
There's a
does.
part where you're
It
giving
does.
yourself permission that you're
Mhm.
giving us permission, right? I mean, it's
Absolutely.
like, oh, okay. I always think about that in the 12-step community. I always think of it a
Uh-huh.
little bit like a flu shot. Like you need
Absolutely.
some of the flu in order to be inoculated from the flu,
Right,
right?
right. And it's also it's it was a beautiful thing to realize over these past few years and the growth of this totally unexpected thing. I don't even know what to call it. But
I'd call it a
is
movement.
it well, I'll let you have that word because that word still feels kind of strange to me to call it really anything. I think the most beautiful piece of it was coming to the realization that individual healing leads to collective healing,
Oh,
right?
yes, yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
and
Side of
so
yes, sprinkles of yes, and then a little bit more yes.
yeah,
Can
and
we say
so
it
it
again? Because everybody's so
yes,
self-centered these
of
days.
course, individual healing leads to collective healing.
Mhm.
So me doing something very small and seemingly minute to help heal myself then trickled down and gave people maybe the permission that they needed or the license that they needed to also heal. That me doing the work for myself inspired other people to do the same work for themselves. It's mind blowing. And it also shows just how connected we all are. Like in this
Mm,
world that is
we sure are.
hell bent on pointing out differences and how we're not the same and how we don't all have the same amount of money and the resources and we're not the same color and
Yeah, and
we
it
don't
pits us
have the
against each
same
other.
religion, right? Like all these things at our core, we are all human feeling beings. We all struggle with things. We all go through tough patches and hard relationships and
Mhm.
car accidents and devastations and bankruptcy and God knows what. We
Yeah.
all are going through the same things and we have a collective experience. But because we are so consumed with the optics and trying to make it look like we are okay and that we're powering through and we're on autopilot, that a person sitting 6 feet away from me who's going through the same exact thing would would be feeling total isolation and not realizing that I'm here feeling the same thing because I'm too afraid to admit, girl, I'm struggling too. This is
Mm,
rough.
mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
hard to raise kids. It's hard to be a mom. It's hard to pay the bills. It's
Sure.
hard to make meals that aren't, hamburger helper. It's hard. Like it is hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no
I'm with
one
you.
wants to say it. We just want to be like, oh, I just love my kids and I love everything about it. And I
And I
just love,
think
blah.
and I think we also want to look really good and look like,
Right.
and I just, in my experience as a therapist, it's like anybody, you may be able to have it all, but you can't do it
Right.
all well. I mean, that's
No,
just
you
been my
can't. You can't.
experience.
You cannot.
So the podcast is called What You're Craving.
Mm-hmm.
I created it because I was sort of tired of talking about the surface stuff, right? Like
Yeah.
the food and the eating disorder
Mm-hmm.
and the addiction. Like I think I think this is like exactly what the podcast is about, is what we're
Yeah.
talking about here,
Yeah.
right? Which is like, well, what is underneath all of it, right? And so to me, in my experience, like what you're talking about is what we're craving. Like literally, what you're talking about is somebody to say, gosh, I remember one of my best friends when she had her daughter. Her daughter was like 3 and she went to Italy on a business trip.
Mm.
And she said I was sitting at the dinner and she said to my other friend, when that door closed, honestly, I was a little relieved.
Yeah.
And my other friend laughed so hard,
Yeah.
because it was true, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't that anybody didn't love their kids. It was just like,
You get a minute
a
to
minute.
breathe and to
Yeah.
be like a figurative minute. We actually want a lot more than just 1 minute, but
Yeah.
like we want a lot of minutes. But it's a minute to just be like, just be yourself,
And
not
connect authentically, like,
right,
and just tell the
right.
truth for a while.
Yeah,
And I think that this is what, I mean, across the board, what we're really craving is just this like
absolutely.
authenticity and connection.
Yes, and an organic connection that happens naturally and not something that is contrived or not
Mm.
something that is is filtered for lack of a better term. Like you want to be able to connect with people on a level that it doesn't necessarily have to make sense. You don't have to go down this checklist of things that you have in common. It literally is, we are all having a collective similar
Yeah,
experience, and we can
totally.
have empathy for each other in understanding that. Like your situation doesn't have to be the same as mine, but in some ways, we are going through the same things.
I think we're more the same than we are different is all. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's such a core belief. The other thing I recognize that I really want to talk about with you, I have
Yeah.
two really things I really want to talk about. We haven't even got to what I talk about. This is the
Yeah.
best kind of friendships. Just selling our friendship a little bit for you. Um, so I've sat with people in their eating disorders and addictions 20 years, and one of the common themes that I hear when somebody has gone against their own integrity with
Mhm.
food, with drugs, with alcohol
Mhm.
is, well, I didn't really want to be there. It's like I said yes when I meant no. I said
Right.
no when I meant yes. I'm just so busy. I can't find the time.
Yeah.
And this to me, the kind of example that you have shown on this Instagram
Mhm.
account, is giving ourselves the gift of grace. And
Absolutely.
we talked about already, but just the idea how overloaded, overworked, and just I love one of these notes. I love all
Uh,
of these notes.
Thank
I
you.
learned today that you can go through Instagram and see all the ones you liked, and
Right,
your
yeah.
whole page has little hearts on it. Sometimes I go like I pound the screen,
Yeah.
like I wish you could have like one of those emojis when both hands are in there, like the
Right,
praise
right.
emoji. I would like a larger emoji sometimes. That's just kind of how I am as a person. But you know, one of the notes says, if today becomes overwhelming, I will give myself permission and grace to do only what is absolutely necessary and allow myself to be okay with that.
Yeah,
Because, when we say yes, we say no.
right.
Tell me how you learned that, or tell me what that means to you.
It really, I think it was born out of necessity. A lot of people ask me that question. Literally, someone just asked me that question yesterday. It and I was like, I would love to be able to give you this huge like I went to an ashram and
Right.
like had
No, I like this story better. You're like, I got
like
hit
a
by a truck
spiritual
and
thing.
then I had to
Yeah,
learn how to do boundaries. Like it's
absolutely.
so perfect,
That is
actually.
absolutely it. In a nutshell, I was hit by a truck, and with that came a limited capacity for everything, literally everything.
How did
So
you let go of the people pleasing though? Because that's, I think, the big thing for people. Well,
I,
if I don't go to the party, she's gonna hate
mhm.
me, or you know.
It became a matter of, I would say, I would call it energy conservation, and not in the traditional sense, but when you go from being super mom, super wife, working a full-time job as a school counselor and having a baking and catering business on the side and writing a food blog and doing all these different things, you learn to ignore, um, you literally like you don't even have a concept of pain tolerance, right? You
Right.
learn to
Well, because
ignore
that's what it
every
is.
right.
Right.
It's just constant pain. And
Mm-hmm.
so you learn to live in that, and you have no concept of what your limits or boundaries are. When you have
Well, can I
been
just pause though? Because I
Mhm.
want to say to the listener, that's where addiction comes in.
Absolutely.
That's, you know what I mean? That's where addiction to even screens, like, or
Mhm.
food or alcohol
Absolutely.
or affairs like that, you need to get such a high level intervention in
Mhm.
order to like down level yourself and
Right.
down level your energy. That's
Mhm.
like, this is like the most important conversation. If we're really talking about wanting to heal,
Absolutely.
is that, in order, if you live a life that big and that fast, there, you have to use these synthetic things to
Right.
get you down.
To get you down, because you are absolutely numb. You have, without knowing it, you have literally numbed all of like the natural pain receptors that are
Yeah, totally.
telling you bop bop beep beep beep, like red
Right.
flag,
Stop. Go to sleep. Totally. Oh my
something is off.
goodness.
But we push it a little bit more, like, oh, let
No
me
big
just
deal.
take that one more call,
No
let
big
me
deal.
quickly go respond to that last
Oh,
email so
oh
that
my
I can get a
goodness.
fresh start in the morning.
Totally.
Oh, let me quickly go, put this other load of laundry in so that way I'll have a head start in the morning.
Mm.
You won't have a head start in the morning,
There's no
because
head start.
there's never a head start in life, ever,
Totally. It's
because
like
things
literally.
will keep coming up. And
It's the big
so
lie. It's the big
it's
lie
the big
addiction
lie.
tells you. I'm telling,
It's
this is so exactly like addiction. Like just
absolutely
one more, just one
just one
more.
more,
This
just
will be
one
the
more.
last one right after. I
Mhm.
mean, busyness is its own addiction.
It
No
really
questions
is.
asked.
It's its own addiction. And I was addicted to busy, and I was doing a piss poor job of taking care of myself.
Oh,
And I didn't have to come to that realization until I got hit by a truck.
yep.
And then I explain it in terms of marbles. So imagine someone who maybe had an unlimited amount of marbles that they could give out every day to all these different things. I went down from unlimited to like five.
Yeah.
And when you go down to five marbles a day, and you got one marble for husband, one marble for bean, one marble for your clients that you're trying to maintain a client load, and you've got one marble for your house, cooking, cleaning, whatever, and you got
I'm
one,
very
this,
stressed out about this
right,
final marble.
this last marble, what do you do with that last marble? Either you tolerate everybody else's foolishness and you take on everybody's baby shower and third birthday party and bridal expedition to New Orleans and all these
Right.
different things, or you use that marble for yourself.
Ooh,
Do
I have
you
like the
get that
chills all.
marble?
I am basically one big goosebump right now. I'm a
Like,
walking goosebump.
literally, do you get that marble, or do you piss it away on any and everything that people try to put on you? And that is where the people pleasing ended, because it got to a space where, first of all, what I'm not going to do is give you my husband's marble or Bean's marble
Well,
or
of
my
course
house's
not.
marble. Like, right.
But the
Because,
question is this, people would say, I mean, good for you, Faith, in this
Mhm.
desperate moment, you did that. But I think people are so scared. I want to
Mhm.
understand something very specific, which is
Yeah.
when you said to the New Orleans crew, and when you said to the baby shower crew,
Yeah.
this marble's mine. I mean, you didn't
Mhm.
say that.
Mhm.
I think people are so scared of what we call in codependency, the
Mhm.
flack. Because,
Yeah.
anytime you set a boundary,
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
can guarantee it's called
Mhm.
flack. If anybody wants to Google something, it's called an extinction burst in
Right.
behaviorism. Anytime you set a limit, you get a big explosion of the thing. It's
Absolutely.
fascinating. What was the flack? How did you deal with it?
Um,
What did they say when you said, girls, I can't go?
um, so there was a lot of like, oh, that's right. That did happen to you, right?
Mm,
Kind of like, okay, we'll give you a pass on this one because you
yeah.
were in a car accident. Or there was um most famous was um yeah, I'm just going to have to step back and disengage from this friendship because I just don't feel like you're in a place to really like do life with me right now.
Wow.
So
How,
then so
how
then
did
you
that feel though? What
it
did you do
felt
with that?
it felt like absolute ludicrous. Like even when I think about it now,
Yeah. My lioness is coming up. Like, I just
I
want to
I
scratch that
I
person's
think
eyes
I
out.
think to myself like, so essentially what you're telling me is like somehow in my life tragedy, my job loss, my loss of the ability to be the person I've always been, brain injury, doctor's appointments, like trying to stay alive and be present for my child and my family, um, struggling financially and trying to keep our house out of foreclosure and keep our cars from being repossessed. That somehow in this situation, you're the victim.
Mhm. It takes a lot of clarity to see that
It
though.
it 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 does, but I had a lot of time
Mm,
because I'm not working, right?
right.
I'm at home, and so
Well, you're a therapist and
and
a
I'm a
pretty wise,
therapist,
a
and
pretty wise lady,
I'm seeing these, and then you go back and you start to see the patterns that had been there all along
Yeah.
that you didn't want to pay attention to because you always want to believe the best about people. And so it was very much um the flack was awful. Like it did not feel good,
Mhm.
and it was hurtful. And there was a lot of processing through it of like, I don't get this.
Right.
I'm really having a hard time understanding how what I'm going through almost in essence makes me too much
Mhm.
for
Well,
someone,
right. Well,
right?
and so you had to
Um,
reframe that. I
I
think there's such a
did.
gift of desperation to your
Mhm.
story. That's
Mhm.
like, to me, what I hear too is like, it wasn't an option. You didn't actually
Exactly.
have the thing to say, you know what, actually, I'll come to the party.
Yeah, no.
Where I think a lot of people like have this desire to set a boundary,
Mhm.
and then and then it's like a double wound, right? They
Yeah.
set a boundary. The person says, how could you do this to me? And they say,
Mhm.
okay, you know what, fine. And they sort, the soul knows.
The soul knows.
The
The
soul
heart
knows.
knows,
The
and
heart knows.
it knows what your limitations are. And I think that was the place that I got to. Like when you got 5 marbles a day, you don't have time for tomfoolery. You don't have time for shenanigans. You don't, I did not have the space for it. It literally was a matter of like choosing between um choosing between being able to be present just for basic life things, like
Yeah, no,
not
it
there
makes all
was
the sense in
nothing
the world.
extra, there was
No,
nothing extra.
it would be an amazing, like for those of you who are just, listening so intensely, I would challenge you to do the 5 marble experiment. I would challenge you to I really would. If you're having a problem setting boundaries in your life, like pretend this is happening. Gift of
Yeah.
desperation's kind of because I remember when I was in the depths of my food addiction and
Mhm.
I had to clean up my life in a big
Yeah.
way. And I remember having to set a limit with someone of like one of my
Mhm.
eating friends, and she looked at me,
Mhm.
said the same thing, like, well, who am I going to eat pizza with now? And I was like,
Oh.
well, I'm about to die, so I'm not quite sure.
Right.
and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the gift of grace, I did it very imperfectly
Absolutely.
setting these boundaries, but the gift of grace really said to me, this is no good. Get away from
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
No matter what, alone is better than this. I think that was the note that I really got from
Oh,
the universe.
absolutely.
Alone would be better than this. I gosh, this other one, bless these kids that teach us so
No,
much,
right?
because I love this one about be this is okay, this is the one. This is the note. You ready for this
Uh-huh.
one, guys? I mean, just put on your seatbelts for this one. I didn't begin to prioritize self-care because, this is the one. I love people. They're like, Molly, you must just have so much time. I don't have any time. Thich
Yeah.
Nhat Hanh, I think it's Thich
Yeah.
Nhat Hanh. He
Uh-huh.
says sometimes he takes a vacation when he opens a doorknob, just mindfully takes vacation. But we're not talking about that.
Right.
This is the
This
great
is
note.
different.
This is different. I need more time than the doorknob is what we're
Right.
saying. So this is the one that says, which, oh gosh, I'm so sorry for everyone to have to hear this because you're never going to be able to unhear it. I didn't begin to prioritize self-care until I saw how precisely my daughter admired and mimicked my every move. And I realized that self-neglect wasn't the legacy I wanted to pass down to her.
Yeah.
People say to me, like, oh, my child is struggling with addiction. My child is struggling with this. My child is struggling with that. What should I do?
Mhm.
And I'm like, get your house in order. This is the greatest gift you can give your child.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Tell me,
Absolutely.
where'd you
I
come to
mean,
that realization?
oh gosh, that was, gosh, that was right in the thick of it all. That was, I mean, I probably had only been writing those notes a couple months
Mm,
at that point when I originally wrote that note, and then I recently reposted it. Um, but I wrote that one only a few months after the accident, a few months after a job loss, a few months after, you know, coming to the realization that I needed to get my act to get like I legit needed to do something. Um, and it was summer, and my mom, I'm from a small town, Louisiana, New Iberia, Louisiana, on the bayou, and
that's another podcast I'd like to
right.
have with you.
No, it's a wonderful little place. All my family still lives there. I'm the only one that's moved away. And my mom had said, Faith, why don't you let Bean come down and spend some time with us this summer? Um, and the mama in me, right? The super mom in me was very much, oh, no, 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 because I don't want her to think that mama's too tired or in too much pain to keep her around. I don't want her to feel like I'm pushing her off on anyone. I don't want her to feel, less loved or anything like that. Almost, but for me, it was, I want to be able to keep up this facade that I have it all together, that I can do everything, be everything, I can recover and completely take care of my child. I don't need any
Ugh,
help. I can do this. And I actually took that note while I took the picture of that note and wrote it when I was in Louisiana, when I was literally dropping my daughter off
yeah.
and getting on a plane and flying back to Atlanta
Mm,
just to have like, I think it maybe a week of downtime
yeah. What a
and
beautiful, and
rest.
by the way, what a legacy. People need
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
People need
Yeah.
breaks.
But I could not allow myself in at that time. It was hard for me to allow myself the grace and the permission and the compassion, the self-compassion to say, you are not neglecting your child by allowing her to spend time with other people who love and adore her
Mhm,
so that her mama can get into a better place,
mhm.
right? You are not hurting her by doing that. She will be fine. She will not feel neglected. You're not going to say, Bean, I'm dropping you off because mama's miserable and in pain and can barely function every day and
Right.
hasn't slept in a week.
Or because I
You're
don't love, because I don't love
right.
you and you're too
Right,
much.
right. It was simply like, oh, you get to go spend time with your grandparents and your cousins in Louisiana and run around the yard without shoes and
Right.
all these, you know,
I'm ready to go. Totally.
right, all these fun things. And I think that was the moment of realizing that in order for me to be the mom that I wanted to be to her, that I had to do the work for myself first, right?
It's the
It's
only
the whole
lesson.
individual healing leads to collective healing. If I
Yeah.
want my daughter to not run herself into the ground when she gets older, and if she chooses to be a mom, I want her to have the example of my mom wasn't always miserable and irritated with me and always frustrated because she was always doing a million things and never took time for herself. I want her to have the memory that when me and my mom were together, we were having the best time.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got tired, we took naps.
Oh,
And
right. And
and
my mom wasn't on the phone
right.
while I was doing homework, while we were cooking dinner, right? My mom was
Absolutely.
available and present. It's
I
like you
wanted
broke the
her,
bondage of
yeah,
busyness.
I wanted her to have that experience of authenticity and also the experience of she is worth me being mindful and present.
Mm.
She's
And and
worth
and I would
that.
imagine she's worth you not having to attend to every single thing. I mean, I think it's so important
Absolutely.
for people listening. I mean, you had to cut a whole bunch of stuff
A
out of
whole
your
bunch of
life
stuff. A
and get
whole
really
bunch.
clear and intentional about what mattered to you,
Right.
and
What
that
those
I think is,
priorities were.
if
Absolutely.
because if you're trying to get everything done, you're not getting it done well.
You're
I mean,
not
that's
getting it
just what
done
I know
well.
for sure. And
Right.
almost always, the sacrifice is at yourself. We don't
Yeah.
put ourselves, that fifth marble, babe, that
Mhm.
fifth marble. That should
Mhm.
be the name of your book, The Fifth Marble.
The fifth
Take it. My
marble.
gift to you.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was very much that, and kids are mirrors, right? So
And
gosh,
sponges. They're all sorts of
yes,
metaphors, aren't
they're
they?
all sorts of things. And I distinctly remember one day, um, me trying to do it all before I'd come to that realization. And I was in the kitchen doing something on my phone and cooking, right? Multitasking. And she's like, Mama, can you come in the living room and play with me? And I said, Sure, baby, I'll come. And she looks at me as I'm like literally having this internal debate. She's 3.5. I'm having this internal debate of, do I leave my phone in the kitchen
Mm,
and go be present with her in the living room and play tea party with her in Candyland? Or do I bring it along with me and just kind of like put it in the background or in my back pocket just in case I might want to check it? And I see her watching me and she says, It's okay, Mama. You can bring your phone. I know you want to.
oh,
And that was just like
a
ouch.
mirror and a half.
Right?
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And that did it for me. That did it for me in so many ways of we don't realize the constantly having to be attached to something or a device and not being able to be fully present in any one thing because we're
Right.
all over the place, that is self-neglect. That's neglect
Absolutely.
because you are
Absolutely.
never fully enjoying any experience.
Yeah. And I think I always say this about eating disorders, they're so about quantity, even in the restricting ones,
Mhm.
that we forget about quality. Like we forget
Right.
completely about quality. And I
Mhm.
think that it's with all addictions, it's like that, you know?
Yeah.
We forget that there is the power of just a full presence in DBT. We call
Right.
it like one-minded, just being
Yeah.
and I think for me, and I'm sure I think you agree, but like
Mhm.
I'm actually astounded when I do something one-mindedly, when I do
Oh
something like,
gosh, me too. It's a surprise. It's like almost like I want a cheering section in the background and a band and confetti to come down. Like,
well,
I
and if
did
my
it.
heart could talk after it, my
Yeah,
heart would be like, this is the best.
it
Like,
is.
like I watched a movie the other day, just like by myself with nothing around. And like, I'm
Mm.
not even sure if it was a good movie or that I just did it or just like how I did it. Like, I was like, wow, that is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
and like when I think about what you're craving, right? Like I
Mhm.
finished that movie, like I didn't need a snack after, like I didn't
Right.
even want to go near my phone after. I was like, I just want
Right.
this feeling in this
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
I tell you. So anyway, friend, I could talk all day. This
Me
seems like a
too.
nice jumping off spot. I mean, also we'll probably talk tomorrow on our morning
Right, on our
walk.
morning walk,
There's that.
absolutely.
There's that. Um, but I wonder, just one closing question about,
Yeah,
what do you think we're really craving in life? Like what do you think what's really underneath all of it?
but I really, really think that we are craving ultimately is peace,
Mm,
peace of mind, um, and peace comes from eliminating a lot of the noise, eliminating a lot of the clutter. And I don't mean clutter as in stuff or noise as in actual noise, sirens, these types of things. But clutter and noise is essentially anything that distracts you from being present and mindful in your true, authentic self in
mm,
any given moment.
mm, believe
And
it.
I think that we have gotten so consumed with the concept of multitasking and efficiency and productivity and like how many things can I cram into my calendar in one day and oh well maybe if I combine this with this and do this while I'm eating lunch then I'll make space to do something else and there's this constant search for a little sliver of space in our schedule only to cram more stuff into that space.
Absolutely.
You cannot feel peace during that. And you really don't feel much of anything when you're in that space, which speaks to what you're saying with
Yeah.
the addictions concept, right? That you become so numb to everything because of this constant overload that's either going on in your mind, you're constantly eating, you're
Yeah.
taking drugs, whatever the case may be, that we don't experience anything authentically. We don't experience anything by itself.
Well, and
It's
then we need
always in
more. And then we need
conjunction,
more, more,
right?
more, 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 more,
Right.
more.
More, right?
Mhm.
And I really think that what we are craving is just peace.
Mm,
Peace, not that everything is okay, because I
right.
don't believe that that is peace.
Right.
Peace is that no matter what type of ridiculous, and I'm a Louisiana girl, what type of ridiculous hurricane is swirling around you, right?
Yeah.
That no matter what's swirling around you, that within you, you are okay.
Soul peace,
So,
peace within
right,
the soul.
literally my
Mm.
favorite, absolute favorite, and one of my highlights in my Instagram account is it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul that no matter what, and it's not a religious concept. It simply is that no matter what is going on outside my house, out in my community, what these kids are doing and tearing up the house, if the husband is not taking out the trash like he's supposed to, whatever the case may be, no matter what is going on, that I can be at peace and I am well
It is well in my
within
soul.
myself. It is
It
well
is
with my
well in my soul.
soul.
I'm saying that all day. I'm just going to walk around saying that.
It
I
is
feel bad for
well
everyone that's
with
around me today.
my soul. It is well with my soul. And I love it. I love it so much because I don't know if you've ever heard the actual song or the actual hymn, It Is Well With My Soul, but it's beautiful. And
Well,
it was
that's on
written,
my list today. I can promise you
listen
that.
to it,
I can't wait.
absolutely listen
Can't
to
wait.
it. It was written by a man who literally had lost everything. Literally, children were had died. He lost his wife in I think like a ship sinking at sea, like all these awful things. And in the midst of all of that, he says, no matter what my lot, I can say, it is well with my soul, even if all of this world crumbles around me. It is well with my soul. And I think if we could all get to that place, not that we won't have trouble in life, not that things won't suck,
Yeah.
not that we will not struggle, but ultimately, I am going to be okay.
Absolutely. Well, it'll be a whole lot less. And a whole lot less of
Yeah,
the chaos around it. And a whole lot less of like, yeah, sure, I'll be there. Or, oh, I
right.
need to like eat my lunch while I'm doing,
Right,
yeah,
right.
all is well with my
And
soul.
and even if, here's the thing, even if people get upset with me, it is well with my soul.
Especially
Even when
when people get
especially even when I set a boundary that people don't like, it
all
is
is well
well with
my
my
soul.
soul.
I just sometimes feel like I'm the luckiest person that I get to have these conversations. Like, I'll tell you something, an hour with you, all is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. Friend, thank you.
Thank
Tell
you for
us
having me,
things we
Molly.
want to know if we need more of you, and we need more of you. So that's
Oh,
really good. Where can we
well,
find you?
you can find me obviously on Instagram. My handle is at Flirtily Speaks. And then you can also find me more info about me on my website, which is www.flirtilyspeaks.com.
Yeah.
I have been terribly, terribly delinquent with my
No, I think
blog
that's
posts.
wonderful. In the
With
spirit of self-care.
in the
Anytime
spirit
you
of
are not
self-care.
doing something, we know it's for good. Like I
Right.
applaud you for
Well,
not being
thank
on your
you.
website. Well done.
I haven't been on it, and I had not, up until a couple weeks ago, I had not published a blog post since last
Good
September.
for you.
And but I do love to write. It's very therapeutic for me. It
Yeah.
always has been. And so I am getting back into that.
Wonderful.
And also, if, sometimes it's because I feel like I don't want to say the same things over and over. So if anybody listening to this podcast has ideas of things that they may want to learn about or hear about in a blog post, like just send them my way. And I'd be happy to take on those suggestions to
You're
give you guys the
wonderful.
content that you really want.
Also, I mean, I think what you're talking about, we all could use some repetition on. Just side note.
Yeah.
Like, just side note on that. Well, what a wonderful time. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you.
Mwah.
Thank
You're
you.
wonderful. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It was so good to be here.